Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to our November webinar here in the SEO Admissions Office. So excited to have what looks like a great audience of prospective students and potential students for the fall 2020 class. So thank you all for taking some time this afternoon to be with us. My name is Rebecca. I've interacted with some of you before, and many of you may have heard my voice on these webinars in previous sessions. I am the Student Services and Admissions Officer here for the college. But for our session this afternoon, I'm excited to be able to feature a couple of other folks from Southern College of Optometry to lead a discussion on preparing for the profession. So I've invited Dr. Lisa Wade and Mr. Mike McKeever from our Hayes Center for Practice Excellence to talk to you all today about preparing for the profession. Obviously, when you're in optometry school, you learn all sorts of things about the science behind vision and eye health and health in general and patient care. But what you may not really think about is what you need to do to prepare for your profession in terms of business skills and so forth. As many optometrists do work in private practice, that means you're owning your own business. And so there is a lot of ways in which folks here at SEO help you to prepare for that side of the profession. And a lot of that help and advice comes from folks in the Hayes Center. So they're going to chat with you today. As always, if you have questions, you can feel free to type them into the chat box or the question and answer box in the GoToWebinar system, and we'll be happy to answer those. If not in the moment, then we'll certainly circle back to anything at the end. But without any further ado, I'll hand it over to Mr. McKeever and Dr. Wade. If the two of you don't mind first introducing yourselves, and then you can jump right into the presentation.
Okay, this is Lisa Wade. I am Director of the Hayes Center here at SEO. I'm a 1984 graduate of SEO, and I also teach the practice management courses here.
Hi, everybody. I'm Mike McKeever. I'm the program coordinator here at the Hayes Center for Practice Excellence. I've been at the college for several years now. Actually started in a position which Miss Rebecca is doing right now. I'm the former Student Services and Admissions Officer. Interesting fact, I actually started these webinars way back when, so it's kind of interesting to be on the other side of that. So yeah.
Well, we welcome you today, and just want to say a few words about the Hayes Center. You can see from the slide that the Hayes Center was begun in 2005. Dr. Jerry Hayes, who's a 1973 graduate of SEO, he was in private practice in Vicksburg, Mississippi, and saw the opportunity to not only help himself initially in a variety of means to on the business side of his practice, but he parlayed the things he did for himself into quite a successful business that, in fact, have helped quite a few optometrists, thousands of optometrists, literally over a variety of ways, from patient engagement materials, buying groups, consulting services through the years. And in 2005, to kind of share his, how can I say it, the wealth of what optometry had created for him, he very generously made a gift to Southern College Optometry that allowed us to open the Hayes Center, which is really a unique center of its type in optometric education, that Mike and I get to work pretty much full time to help you be successful while you're in school, but also really focused on how we help you to be successful once you graduate from optometry school. You want to add anything, Mike?
Just want to say that in the Hayes family, Dr. Jerry Hayes and especially his children are still very engaged with the Hayes Center. They keep a close eye on what we do. They advise what we do. They attend our award ceremonies, which we'll talk more about in a minute. They give guest lectures at the college, so the Hayes Center is still very much a part and involved in what we do here.
Their son, Nathan Hayes, who actually works for a consulting firm called IDOC, was actually on campus Tuesday and lectured in my class and to the private practice club on Tuesday evening. So they are here quite often, and we are very appreciative of not only their continuing generosity, but also their active engagement in trying to help our students be the best they can be on the business side. So, you know, our goal with the Hayes Center is largely, sometimes we focus on private practice, and that is our mission. But the reality is our goal is to help all of our students be successful regardless of the path they choose. And one of the things you'll hear us talk about as we go through is our focus on the future programs. And last week, we actually had a program for all our first-year students where we had, I believe 10 different optometrists from different modalities, from cold start private practice, partnership, working in a corporate setting, working in a practice that's owned by private equity, working in the VA hospital, working in an OD-MD center. Come and talk to the students about how we like to say the goods and bads of the uglies, about what they do, what they like, what are some of the challenges, but also to share a little bit about their journey. And we also had someone come and talk who left private practice and now works in industry, because we want to try to make you aware of all the venues that are available for you to pursue, and that success looks very different for each individual person. And we are very committed to helping you find what success looks like for you.
I think that, Dr. White, that brings up a very good point about, even though we are very big cheerleaders of private practice, you're entering this field where there is a ton of options of what you want to do. So our real job is just to prepare you for life after optometry school, whatever that may be. A lot of students will go on to residency education and then go to academia. Some students will work corporate optometry. Some students will go into industry and not just private practice. So what we really are here in a traditional college or university would be the career services department, just making sure you are job ready for the next step.
And the reality is that while you may not realize it, even if practice ownership is not your goal long term, you still need some of those business skills, because in today's market, even employed ODs are expected to participate in the management of practices. It may be that you're the only professional at a particular site, so the owner or a corporation will be looking to you to exert leadership upon the group that you're working with. So again, it is important for you for many reasons to understand how the financial aspects of a practice work. One of the topics that we're moving on to right now in the practice management class is human resource management. And again, regardless of what mode of practice you choose, you're going to be dealing with people. So again, trying to give you skills regardless of what modality you ultimately choose, that you have the tools to be successful in each of those. But when we look at private practice, there are a lot of ways that can happen. It used to be that most people graduated from optometry school, graduated, went out and opened a practice. That's not the norm at this point. We have most of our students are interested in practice ownership, but most of them take a little bit longer path to that. Most of our students are hired initially out of school as an associate practitioner. Maybe if they are an OD that has an interest in what we call equity or ownership of the practice, they may move to a junior partner level, owning a small portion of the practice. Over time, increase their ownership, moving into either the sole owner or a senior managing partner. Over time, trying to grow that practice, and also then at the end of their career, looking to sell that practice to another OD. It's kind of interesting that, and I think students sometimes wonder why we start talking about how you're going to exit practice, what your goals are at the end of your practice life, at the same time that we're talking about how you're going to enter practice. But if you're going to be a practice owner, those are things you have to think about, because, for example, are you going to set up as a LLC? You're going to set up an S Corp. All those things, how you originally conceive of your business, have an impact on how you're able to exit them on at the end of your career. So a lot of things to think about that might not really be in your mind at this moment if practice ownership is a goal for you. But those are all things we talk about and all things that we try to, one, educate you with, and also that we're here even after you graduate to assist you with. So that's another thing I think that's a little bit unique about the Hayes Center. We're just not a career services for students. A day does not go by that Mike and I don't interact with alumni who call and ask questions or email us, that we try to provide guidance really at any stage in alumni's career where they may need some help. Anything you want to add about that, Mike?
We can move on here.
Okay, are we on to chart your course for success?
We are.
Okay. One of the things, if you are at SCO with me, particularly in the practice management class, you will see this chart quite a bit. This was developed by Vision One, who is a credit union developed by optometrists for optometrists based in California. And they developed this visual to kind of show the difference between wealth creation only related to the practice of optometry of an owner versus an employee. Please, please, please do not take that this means that you cannot create wealth as an employee. You certainly can. What it is tempting to show is some of the milestones that happen along the career path of a independent owner, and also the growth of the wealth of your practice as an entity, as an asset over time. As an employee, again, it is very easy to create wealth, but you have to use the assets you earn as your salary or your bonus and deploy them in ways outside of optometry to create wealth. Owners, in addition to being able to deploy those resources outside of optometry, they have the added benefit that they are creating wealth within the practice as the practice grows. As again, you can see at the beginning, the wealth is sort of low because you probably have a lot of debt that you've taken on to purchase a practice, purchase equipment. It takes time for your patient volume to grow, but over time, a private practice can be a source of wealth creation, particularly if you own the building in which you are practicing. So again, not to discourage people from being employees, but wealth creation happens differently for owners than it does for employees. Some of the resources that we have available to you, as I mentioned, I teach the practice management courses. We offer 2 courses in the 3rd year that we have 2 hours over 2 semesters that you'll spend learning with me. In the first semester so far, we've talked a lot about personal financial management, again, how you create wealth for yourself, how you create wealth in the practice. We've been going over how you understand the financial statements of a practice, the balance sheet, the profit and loss statement, the cash flow statement, and we're beginning to talk about the human resource element. Next semester, we talk about different things: marketing, coding, billing, technology, your EHR, the optical, a variety of topics related to the management of an optometric practice. And again, whether you are an owner or an employee in a practice, you need to understand how all these various components are interwoven to ultimately make a practice successful. I'm going to let Mike talk a little bit about the placement service. That's one of the big projects that he manages.
Yes, definitely. SCO does operate a full scope placement service on our website. And what that is a job board for you to find your position in optometry once you graduate. It is offered exclusively to SCO students and alumni. So only SCO students or graduates have access to view that site. But on the other side of that, we offer that free of charge to any provider. So anyone with an optometric position, whether it's in private practice, corporate optometry, OD, MD, or medically oriented practice, they are allowed to post on there. And just on our website alone, just on our little website at our little college, there are currently around between 1,800 and 1,900 opportunities listed on that placement service. And think about that for a second. There's just over 500 students in at SCO, and typically, you know, just the fourth year class and a little bit of the third year class and a handful of alumni at any time, that's probably around 200 to 300 people are active on the site at any given time. So 200 to 300 job seekers versus 1,900 opportunities. That just goes to show you how many opportunities there are out there for SCO alumni. And again, that is just on our website alone. And there are countless other resources available with the American Optometric Association, different other optometry schools or state organizations that have job listings, and we provide those resources to our students. But again, just having that fantastic resource here alone creates a lot of opportunities for our students. I manage the site. It's a pretty big undertaking what I do, and I just think it's a fantastic resource for the exclusive use of our students.
We, Mike and I both participate in career counseling with our students. We're available, we do a number of programs with the first and second years that we'll mention here in just a moment. We do not have individual meetings with first and second years. I hate to use the word mandatory, but every third year student meets with Mike, every fourth year student meets with me. We do not have that requirement for first and second years, but we are certainly available at any time that any student wants to meet with us. But beginning in the third year, we start taking a very active role in encouraging you to have a plan and letting us help you work that plan so that you have a successful opportunity at graduation. We both are big believers in, you'll hear me say this, finding forever fast, that the quicker you can find what will be your forever optometric practice, the more successful, the more upturn you have on that curve that we had looked at previously. So we want to help you have a bit of discernment, but also making sure that you are doing what you need to do on your end to ensure that you have a variety of opportunities to choose from. We have the Optometric Private Practice Club. I think we have one of the largest in the country. I think we have over 300 members in the Private Practice Club. They meet once a month. Mike and I work closely with them in trying to help identify speakers and topics that are relevant to the students and ones that support what we're learning in the practice management class or may be different than what we would normally have in the practice management class. So a great group of students, and I think something that they get a lot out of. You want to talk about networking and meet and greets?
Yeah, so we do have a lot of networking opportunities for our students. So a big thing of what they need to get involved with here is learning how to talk to people, learn how to grip and grin, you know, shake hands and meet people. They need to get their name out there before they graduate. So we try to provide some opportunities on campus just to do that. Every year during our homecoming, we have alumni from all over the country coming back to take continuing education and have social events on campus. We have events where our third and fourth year students come and meet these alumni, especially alumni that are planning to add an associate in the next year or two. You know, it takes a long time to find a quality associate. So we like to start to develop that relationship early. And again, having these students develop those skills. That's a hard thing to do, especially a lot of students that are very interested in science and going that route, that the kind of social interaction thing sometimes doesn't come naturally to some people. So we want to teach them to do that while they're here in school. Dr. Wade talked a little bit about the Optometric Private Practice Club. A really new initiative that they started this year with VisionWorks was a private practice crawl, where all the students from the Optometric Private Practice Club after hours got to go and tour several practices in the Memphis area, meet the doctors, learn how they run their practices, and we have those events too. Anything you want to add to that, Dr. Wade?
Probably not about OPP, but except that maybe it is a great opportunity to hear really nationally recognized experts on a variety of topics. And we try to work with the OPP so that over your 3 years that most of the students belong to OPP or the first, second, and third years, because as you know, many of our fourth years are not on campus at any one time. But so that over the course of 3 years, you're not hearing the same people, but you're really hearing a variety of topics of interest over those 3 years. Kind of same thing with the Lunch and Learns. Those we are fortunate that we have lots of renowned individuals who visit our campus, and when it permits, we try to arrange small group lunch and learns with those individuals. We have a couple of programs specifically that the Hayes Center puts on for students. We have what is referred to as Bon Voyage for our third year students and the capstone for our fourth year program. And we may talk about Bon Voyage, I think, a little bit more in a minute, but just to introduce it, it is a program that we do in April of third years for our students. Two or three main things happen there. One, SCO is the only institution, and the Hayes Center is the only group that recognizes young alumni for excellence in private practice. Each year we give away 3 $5,000 awards to young alumni who kind of compete for these awards based on how they are conducting their private practice. In the past, we had done it based on number of years out. This year, we changed it a bit that we want to recognize someone who had a cold start, which means you started from scratch. We want to recognize someone who has become a partner in a practice and is doing that successfully, but also someone who acquired a practice and is now the sole owner or the managing optometrist within that practice. So it's very interesting. Again, we try to give the students the opportunity as much as possible to see people who look like them, who have been on their journey very, very recently, so that they can, again, see what all these avenues are to have a successful career in optometry. In addition to the Hayes Awards at Bon Voyage, we have students who have been on externship come back and speak to the students about how to really make the most of that experience. The externship experience is 2/3 of your senior year. It is an incredible and vital part of your optometric education, and we want to make sure that you are making the most of those different opportunities. SCO is the only school that requires our students to rotate through a private practice as one of their externs, and our students participate in what we call an institutional setting, which is usually a higher volume, high medical practice for their other opportunity. We also have presenters come in and talk about how to position yourself. If a residency is something you're thinking about, what do you need to be doing during the fourth year to position yourself to become a successful and competitive resident? We have a keynote speaker. We do a lunch. We do a lovely reception. We feed you all day long. So it's sort of a way for the college to give you some information, but also a way for us to say bon voyage to you as you go off into the excitement of fourth year. Capstone is really what it says. We do that with the fourth year students just prior to graduation, and it is a day and a half of, again, information, trying to help you cross that bridge from being a student to being a practitioner. Our topic can be most often, what do I need to do in the first 180 days after graduation? You know, basically to answer the now what, that you've got this diploma in hand, now what begins to happen with life. And another thing, we offer continuing education to our alumni. The Hayes Center sponsor speakers, as well as I'll speak at, we have 2 on-campus continuing education programs, and I also speak at a variety of programs around the country on topics of practice management. Mike, I think we're going back to placement, and I'm going to let you talk for a bit.
Yeah. Can we go back to the career counseling?
Yes. I think we have another slide a little bit later on, too. Yeah, we do, after placement.
Yeah, so I want to talk about the career counseling, and Dr. Wade mentioned that this really starts in earnest during your third year and continues into the fourth year, but it is available during your first 2 years as well. We are always available on a walk-in basis. Don't have to make an appointment. If one of our doors are open, like Dr. Wade and I's offices are right next to each other, you can come in and talk to us. Like we mentioned before, a lot of the Hayes Center interactions are compulsory. They're mandatory, the things you have to do. But a lot of this too is the more you put in, the more you get out of it. There are obviously students who I see just for their required hours, their required interactions, and there's other students that are in my office every week wearing me out, and I'm saying wearing me out in a good way because they're using the resources that are available to them. So we're here to do that, but it really starts in earnest, like I said, the third year. During the third year, when you start your practice management course with Dr. Wade, then you start working with me on the side just to really kind of get your plan developed and get you career ready. You have several deliverables that you have to give to me during third year. Number one is a good resume or a CV. I'm going to teach you how to make an effective one. I evaluate all the resumes and CVs for the entire third year class, critique them, making sure they're strong, making sure they're job ready, that they're ready to submit. You have to have a LinkedIn profile. LinkedIn is a powerful online job networking tool, so all the third year students are required to have a good page. They're actually just in the process of turning those into me right now. Also, tomorrow, yes. Also, they're required to have a profile page up on the placement page so that they're being visible to the providers. But during their career counseling with me, that is during their third year, again, that's a required session. It's about a half hour to an hour long. That's really to start to be thinking about the next step. Third year is the time when you're really over the hump of the first 2 years that are heavily didactic, taking a lot of courses. Third year, your course load is a little lighter, but then you're really over in the clinic, getting your feet wet, rotating through the different specialty areas of the clinic. So it's really kind of a time to figure out what you like, what you don't like, and you have a lot of ideas in your head swimming around as to what life could be after optometry school. What area do I want to go through? So my job during that time is to really kind of get you start thinking about developing a plan. Third year and fourth year go by really fast. Students take part one of their national board exams in March of the spring semester of the third year. So, they're really starting to amp up their studying for that now. It's a very big hurdle to get over, a big rite of passage. That's where their brain is. And after that, they go on externs. And during externs, they're typically working full time, all day, every day, and studying for boards. So time goes by very fast. And the snap of the fingers, they're going to be, at their graduation ceremony, walking across the stage. So that third year interaction is crucial just to kind of get them at the beginning and get them developing a plan. And once we get them developing a plan, Dr. Wade steps in during their fourth year to get them to execute that plan. And I'll let you talk a little bit about that.
Yep. So I meet with every fourth year student. Again, we only have a third of them on campus at any time, but I tell students that in my perfect world that we know what's happening around just before or just after Christmas when you come back from the holidays, because my goal is that time from January to graduation is one that you enjoy, that you know what your plan is, that we've worked out the kinks of your contract, and that you actually get to enjoy that last semester with your classmates. So for that to happen, it means you have to have begun your work earlier than that. We encourage students really that you cannot begin this soon enough. It doesn't mean that we want you to sign a contract in second year or even third year, but we do want you to start building those relationships, because one of the things that I think sometimes it's hard for students to grasp, a significant number of our students find opportunities not from who they meet, but that they have met someone who knows someone, and that they may go to a state meeting, they may go to a local society meeting, they may go to a COVD meeting, they meet 10 people But those people are going back to their states. They're talking to people in their local society, people who they serve on committees with in the state organization or maybe at the national level. And someone says to them, you know, it's time. I really need the associate, or I'm thinking that I'm going to retire. And that OD who met you says, you know what? I met this lovely young man or woman at the AOA PAC meeting in Washington last month. Let me give you their name. I think they would be a great match for your office. So the more people that you can meet, the more people that you can let know what your goals are, the more people you're actually putting out, deploying on your behalf to help you find a great opportunity. One of the things, if you don't come from an optometric background, that you will find is that this is a wonderful, very close-knit, very protective of one another sort of community. And people who really don't even know you very much are very interested in your success because they're very interested in the success of the profession. One of the things I think we missed on slide number 9, Rebecca, I don't know if you want to go back there for just a second to debt counseling. One of the things that is very big in Mike's and my mind is helping you control your student debt so that you have as many options as possible at graduation. SCO, I'm certain you've heard this from the admissions office, is it 23 years, Rebecca? With 0% default?
Yes, 23 years.
23 years with 0% default. We start talking about financial management before you even come on campus. Once you're admitted, the summer before you come with us, we actually have a financial literacy curriculum that we asked you to complete prior to coming on campus. We are convinced that the more you know, the better decisions that you can make, and the better you're going to be able to control that debt. We work very closely with the financial aid office to help with education and that message, and any assistance that we can help you in your personal situation with how you can minimize that debt. Because while we're very fortunate at the low cost of our tuition relative to many of our peers, we still want to make sure that we're doing what we can to provide you the education to understand what your debt means, how you will need to manage it, and how you can manage it successfully, and so that it does not feel like an overwhelming burden to you at the time of graduation. Anything else you think I ought to add, Mike?
Well, and I think that, student loans, they're very, very scary to think about, that students are amassing this mountain of debt while they're in school, and how am I going to pay this back? Well, number one, if you work closely with us and take our advice and use the resources at hand, you can keep that to a minimum. And number two, you're entering a profession where you're going to be able to pay back this debt. And a lot of students get out of school too, and they think, well, I need to pay this balance down as soon as possible. Every nickel and dime that comes into my checking account, I need to put towards this debt. While it is important to pay back your debt, you need to think about your cash flow for other resources. Other things that are more pressing, your first job out of school, you need to start saving for an emergency fund. 6 months of living expenses. What if something happens or an unforeseen expense comes up? You don't want to go into bankruptcy just for that. If your practice you're working for has a 401k or any type of retirement account, especially if that employer matches, you want to be maxing out that potential for maximum savings, max that out as much as you can. Then the money left over, then you start paying back your loans, because you want to, it even says
or
right
additional
there,
parts to your loans.
It opens up more options for practice. If you get an opportunity, if the doctor you're working for says, well, I think it's time for you to buy into the practice, if you put every nickel and dime you have into paying back those loans, you don't have cash flow for that. If you want to buy a house or any major purchase, you're going to need cash reserves for that. So you want to kind of think about doing this holistically and not just putting every last dollar into paying back your loans.
And again, that's why we think that financial literacy is so important and why we have such a commitment to that. So again, that you have the appropriate amount of information to make the best decisions for your particular situation. Let's go to the next slide. Rebecca, focus on your future. Again, we have a really interesting variety of programs that we offer through the Hayes Center that are, I guess we could call them co-curricular. Some of them happen within the practice management courses, but many of them happen outside. We have the second Wednesday of every month. Classes are curtailed for us to have different programming and educational opportunities, not only with the students, but also for the faculty and staff. By the same time that you're participating in programs on those mornings, so are faculty and staff participating in programs for their development and education. But we do offer Focus on Your programs to all four students in all 4 years. There are a variety of them. Again, we try to do them during what would be your normal class hours, so we're not requiring you to come in the evenings or on the weekends. I don't know how many of you may have taken a DISC assessment. You may be more familiar with a Myers-Briggs behavioral assessment, but another thing, just like the literacy curriculum that you will participate in prior to enrollment, you will take a DISC assessment prior to coming on campus. We're a big believer in that if you understand yourself, your motivators, your goals, what makes you the best person you can be, you're going to be more successful as a student, but also as a practitioner. So we do a lot of work around that. As I mentioned earlier, we did a program last week on the OD practice modalities. We had someone come in using the DISC assessment again, speaking to the third year students to help them understand, given their behavioral type, how can they quickly assess the behavioral type of their patient, and how does that communication need to be modulated so that you can have a successful patient interaction, that you put the patient at ease, that the patient has confidence in you, and that you can build a rapport that allows a more successful adherence to your treatment plan with your patient. And particularly as we try to address cross-cultural sensitivities and making sure that our students are, again, we talk about the platinum rule, not just the golden rule. It's not just do unto me as I want you to do to me, but do to a patient what they need you to do for them for the most successful outcome of their care. And part of that is improving your communication skills with a variety of different individuals. And the third year students went through that. Again, we mentioned Bon Voyage and just a variety of speakers. Many of you may be familiar with the Williams Group. If you're familiar with optometry, we have speakers from the Williams Group come in and talk about different things with the first and second years than with the third and fourth years, but really helping you to understand what's happening in the marketplace. So you understand optometry. I have to admit that, my vision of optometry was basically what the optometrist I went to did. I have to admit I wasn't the most politically conscious person about what was happening in optometry, what was happening with technology, what was happening with the changing scope of optometric practice. But it's important that you do know that. So we do try to have some programs related to that. And also, again, with the Williams Group, with the third and fourth years, trying to help them, gain the information they need to make decisions about how they want to pursue their career path. And Mike, I think we would then go to third year. That's back to you. I think that is sort of a recap of what we've already mentioned.
So during the third year?
Yeah.
So with the practice management course?
Mm-hmm.
Well, during the third year too, we talked a little bit before about the Bon Voyage program is really your springboard to your fourth year before you go out on externs. And the big part of what we do, and I think Dr. Wade mentioned a little bit before, is the Hayes Center for Practice Excellence Awards. And that's when we invite young alumni to come back on campus who are chosen from a very exhaustive search and evaluation process to who's really doing good things in their practice. And this year we have changed the criteria just a bit to where young alumni who have either done a cold start, which means they've gone out and opened a practice on their own, or another category is when they have purchased an existing practice, or the third category is when they have developed a successful partnership. So we get these nominations and we get the applications come in and make a selection, and 3 prestigious young alumni are invited back on campus to make a presentation to the students. And we really want this presentation to be about their story. You know, how did they approach their business and how did they do this? Just a very personal approach to how they've done this. And I think Dr. Wade mentioned it before, it's very important that we have these to be young alumni because we want it to be relatable to our students. When you're in school these 4 years, it's you know, even though this is an exciting 4 years of your life, this is a very difficult and stressful 4 years of your life too. You're earning a doctorate degree. Less than 1% of the population earns their doctorate degree. This is hard. So sometimes it can be a little difficult to kind of visualize what the next step will be after optometry school. So that's why it's very important to us, again, to have people that look like them, that are relatable, that they can visualize what their life will be in private practice. And again, we mentioned before the Hayes family that's very involved in this process of Dr. Hayes and his 2 children who are heavily involved in optometric practice. They are present at the awards to share in that excitement with us and to give their own presentations. Dr. Wade, do you want to add anything to that?
No, I did want to add that in 4th year, something I hadn't mentioned, the slide does mention capstone and what relates to that, but I hadn't mentioned yet that while we do have the classroom program for practice management in 3rd year, we do have a 4th year seminar in private practice. And it's a little bit interesting in that Dr. Glenn Goldring is who teaches that course. And you actually get to participate in practice simulations that you're divided into groups. Sometimes he does it that you have to buy a practice. Sometimes he just awards the practices. But you get to make decisions, hiring decisions, marketing decisions, strategy decisions about what type of services that you're going to make. What does your optical selection look like? And you make choices. You get to spend, and I'm using air quotes here, money to actualize those decisions. The simulation kind of moves forward. You enter your data, you move forward 6 months, and it tells you the results of that outcome. But you're also competing with other groups in the seminar because all the practices are located in the same geographic area. So should every practice decide they're going to be low vision centric, well, that's probably going to dilute the success of any one practice because, 8 practices that are largely low vision driven are probably not going to be successful in the geographic area that is working. So it gives you an opportunity to kind of see what sort of decisions are being made, what the outcomes of those decisions are, but not spending your real money. So it gives you an opportunity to make some mistakes without it costing you anything. And the students really find it a useful tool that once they've sort of had the theory of the practice management class in the 4th year, how do we actually get to put those decisions into action? And what do those decisions look like in a practice prior to having to do that in real time and with real dollars? So kind of a fun thing that they enjoy doing. And also as part of that, Dr. Goldring has different speakers come in, and during those classes, it meets about 6 times a semester during 4th year. And he also feeds you at night since you have to be here in the evening for those. So they all enjoy that. And I think for the next slide, Mike already mentioned this a little bit, that your needs don't stop at graduation, and neither does our support. You have lifelong access to the placement service. We will review your contracts, and I didn't really mention that a lot during 4th year, but Mike and or I review every contract that our students receive. When I tell people that outside of SCO, other students are dumbfounded. To my knowledge, we are the only institution that offers that service to our students. And we also offer, I've actually reviewed 2 alumni contracts today. Again, you're invited to participate in a variety of networking events that we have. We're not going to go to your office and do consultations and do training, but I do look at a lot of P&Ls, profit and loss statements for alumni practices. Rarely a day goes by that I am not on the phone with an alumni, answering questions, asking advice, giving them direction to where to help them find additional information to help them. And as I said, we participate in continuing education. And as a young alumnus, you also have the opportunity to participate for one of the Hayes Practice of Excellence Awards. I'll let you talk for a bit, Mike.
So really, the primary job of each student is to become the best clinician you can be. That's what you're really learning here to do. And what's unique about the Hayes Center is, that is what students are here to do. They're here for the 4 years to study their science, to learn how to be an outstanding optometric clinician. While they're doing that and while they're studying for boards, you're not really learning how to be job ready, how to run an optometric practice. And that is what we're here to do, as a career service department, as the Hayes Center for Practice Excellence. Like we've mentioned before, like during this whole presentation, this is a 4-year co-curricular program that goes lockstep right alongside of your entire didactic and clinical career at SCO. We are planning the programs to accentuate those things. The Focus on the Future program, that's not a static program where we get the same speakers every year. This is an evolving profession and an evolving curriculum. So we plan our events as the profession and the curriculum evolves with that. We want to maximize your time on campus. So when we have a speaker on campus, we think of when's the best time in the curriculum and when do they need to know this and when do they need to know that, and what would be a good speaker, what would be a good program to go alongside what they're learning in class. Dr. Wade, do you want to add to that?
Well, just to that, we also, I didn't really mention this, to kind of add to what Mike's saying about trying to enhance what you're learning in class. We have a number of courses in which the instructors partner with us, that we actually bring speakers into the classes to talk about. For example, when the contact lens course, Dr. Jackson is going to be talking to you about the science of contact lens, the eye health related to contact lens wear, but he's also gracious enough to let us have someone to talk to you about inventory management of your contact lens. How do you appoint patients appropriately for the different types of contact lenses to not only render care, but to make sure that your contact lens care is profitable for you? How do you make the distinction of what contact lens product lines that you're going to offer? In the glaucoma courses, again, how do you treat a patient with glaucoma? How do you schedule them at the appropriate intervals for the coding and billing requirements that go along with that? What does it mean for you when you can't do fields and or pictures in the same day? So how do you manage the business side of caring for those patients, contact lens, glaucoma, just as examples, in addition to how do I hire and fire staff? Because it is a complex, there's a lot of moving pieces to either working in and or managing and or owning a practice. And the science of, in glaucoma, what's happening with glaucoma and what drugs do I prescribe? Yes, you're understanding the disease process and the pharmacological processes, but you also understand what do I need to do to make sure this patient is compliant. and how often do I need to see them, and what is the process in which I'm going to remain in communication with this patient to make sure that I'm getting them back on the schedule that's appropriate, that that follows a standard of care for that. So even, as I said, as an employee, there are business decisions that you're making every day that not only impact the health of your practice, but certainly play a role in impacting the health of your patients. So again, I have my little comment here that you cannot enter practice and expect to thrive or survive without mastery of business principles. And I think it's important to understand. A lot of times when Mike and I talk to students about the importance of understanding business concepts, everybody goes, well, gosh, I can't run a practice if I don't have an MBA. First off, please understand that generations of ODs came before you and entered practice without an OD and became eminently successful. Business is new. It is different than what many of you have been studying, but I promise you, if you can pass part 1 of boards and you can get through ocular disease and pharmacology, understanding business concepts are pretty much a breeze. They only appear difficult to students because they're new and that they're different, and they do take some time. You don't, unlike learning about glaucoma, you don't get to walk into third-year clinic and see a glaucoma patient and see the immediate application. Oftentimes, it's not until you get to go to 4th year on a private practice externship that you begin to see how some of what we talk about related to the Hayes Center, related to the practice management courses, are actually put into practice. And some of those maybe not even until you're out into practice yourself. But that doesn't mean that they're not important. And to that point, very frequently I get a call, Dr. Wade, can you send me your PowerPoint on taxes? I lost my thumb drive and I need that PowerPoint that you do on taxes, or on contracts, or on business insurance. Because again, these things may not be top of mind to you at the moment, but over the course of your career, there's not much that we talk about that will not come into play. And I often tell students that as someone enrolled in optometry school, you're going to hear about glaucoma 1,000 times. Through the Hayes Center or through the practice management course, is probably the only time you're going to hear about many of these topics. So we try to maximize those contacts with you, maximize the effectiveness of those interactions so that they have meaning to you, not only at the time of delivery, but also meaning for you once you get out and practice.
And a lot of the times too, when students come to see me, during the beginning of the 3rd year, there's a little bit of fear, there's a little bit of apprehension about what the next step. It's like, gosh, well, can I do this? Number one, yes, you can do that. Work the program, use the resources that are available to you. Everybody is kind of moving through at the same pace. And a lot of times what you see, the same student at the beginning of their 3rd year that's just getting their feet wet in the clinic, just starting to see patients on their own with their guided instruction, it's normal to feel that way, just because what Dr. Wade was saying. The only reason it's scary is because it's new information. And students normally notice a magical transformation in themselves, and I see it too, than that 3rd year that's just kind of dipping their toes in the water to that 4th year that comes back with their private practice externship, that realizes when they're, yes, I'm out there on my own, yes, I've learned these things, yes, I can do it. Now you're learning the business aspects of a private practice optometry. So when you graduate, even those students that say, oh God, I don't think I'm ready, when you graduate from SCO, you are clinically capable to go out there on your own and see patients, but we're also making sure that you are business capable as well, that you are ready to tackle those subjects as well.
All right, well, thank you so much, Dr. Wade and Mr. McKeever, for sharing all of that great information. I'm going to ask once, if anybody out there in the audience today has questions, please take a moment and type them into the question an answer box. Do you have any final comments, Mike or Dr. Wade, as they do that?
Just that, thank you for joining us today. I hope that at least a little bit of Mike's and my enthusiasm for this has come through. We are very, very passionate about this topic and very committed to making sure that not only are you clinically ready for your career, but that really you have the tools to make good decisions in whatever modality you choose to practice optometry. I tell students pretty frequently that our profession, and literally the world really, will change more in the next 10 years than it has since optometry became a profession. These are very exciting times for our profession. It's an awesome time to be an optometrist, but we want to make sure that you have all the tools that you need, that you can maximize every opportunity that's presented to you at graduation, but also down the road in your career.
Just want to say too that we're, if we can't get to your questions here, we are happy to provide any guidance or answers to questions that we can. Our contact information is on the screen. I still do a bit of admissions work. I travel the country and visit schools, but I'm always happy to answer any questions that you might have. As we always say at SCO, that start with your interactions with us starts during the admissions process, and that continues on. So please reach out to us if you have any questions.
Well, thank you both again. I definitely can see your passion, and thank you for sharing your passion with the group today. I do see a question coming through. Okay, the question is whether we can share the slide deck with the students. I definitely will do that. So to all of those email addresses that came through on the registration page, I can share a PDF copy of these slides, as long as that's okay with the two of you, Mike, and we'll also share a link to the recording of the session on our YouTube page. So we have all of the webinar sessions that we've done for the last year recorded and posted there, so you can refer to the YouTube page if you want more information via the webinar series about topics related to admission, such as the interview process, the application process, a day in the life of an optometry student, virtual tour of the SCO campus, and many others. The OAT is a good one that we've done. And we have links to some of Mike's previous sessions there too. So take a look at that website. But yes, I will share with permission from Mike the slide deck with you all, as well as the link to that recording.
Absolutely.
One more comment, Rebecca.
Sure.
Remember, you're going to be a practicing optometrist infinitely longer than you're going to be a student. Make sure you're doing the things you need to do to help you be successful, not just as a student, but also as a practicing optometrist.
I think that is a great point. And it seems like a great point to end on too, because I don't see any other questions coming through. So to the folks in the audience, you see the contact information posted there. You have admissions contact information on our website as well. So anytime you have questions, don't hesitate to reach out. My thanks once again to the panelists, and thanks to all those in the audience for tuning in today. And I hope you all enjoy the rest of your afternoon.
Thank you so much.
Bye-bye.